Hello and welcome to Blythe Business News, where today I'm joined by Jeremy Asher, who is Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Tower Resources. Tower listed in London on the AIM market at a market capitalisation just north of £3 million sterling and a ticker symbol of TRP. Jeremy, welcome back on the programme. You've just released your interim results. Give us a quick overview, please.
Well, the interim results are not very different from last year. In financial terms, we have a small operating loss, a large increase in the amount invested in our various licenses, and a significant decrease in the amount of accruals and payables. So that's all similar to last year, but good. But the real news is in the accompanying statement, where we talk about the progress that we've actually made over the first part of this year.
And let's be honest, there's been considerable progress. And I just want to start really with the drilling of the NJOM3 well in Cameroon. What steps have you been taking there in the last 6 months? And what will the successful negotiation of a rig contract mean for Tower?
Well, as you say, our main priority has been the negotiation of a rig contract. And that's because, first of all, the rig contract determines the timing for most of the rest of the operation at Njonji, and also because rigs are in short supply at the moment. So this has been our main focus. We thought we were going to get one rig sorted out for still later this year, but in the end we just couldn't make the timing work for that rig, which was very frustrating. But we've shifted focus to the next rig in sequence, and we're now very, very close to finishing the contract for that rig. In fact, I'd hoped to have that already completed this week, but unfortunately there's still a few clauses that still need to be finalized. But I do hope that we're going to get that completed very shortly. Now, that will then unlock everything else, because we can then move forward with the service contracts, which will, of course, the final timing of both the service contracts and the drilling itself will depend on the operational availability of the rig, since we're in a sequence, and this will depend on how quickly it completes the work that it's already undertaking. And also we've got work to do with the documentation of the license extension, which we've been allowing to wait until the rig contract itself is signed, so that we can dovetail the extension with the terms of the rig contract. And then we can move to the other key element, which is the completion of the financing of the well. And that's something that we've been working on also for really the whole of the year to date. So we're quite advanced with that, and our aim, as I've been telling shareholders, is to do this with as little call on shareholders' funds as possible by raising financing at the asset level.
Okay, so significant progress in Cameroon, and it sounds like you're very close to some further announcements, which would be great. Let's just go from Cameroon to Namibia, where you've been doing some modelling work across several of your blocks, the basins that you have offshore in Namibia. Explain to us what's been going on there, please.
In Namibia, we've been working for months on the charge modelling in the Walvis Bay basin, and that charge modelling work is work that we'd done, or our previous subsurface team had done more than a decade ago, and then reviewed with Repsol. But we've had a lot of fresh data since then, and so we really have been almost starting from scratch with understanding the source rocks in the Walvis. And not a lot of other people have been doing much work there. There's our friends global to the south, but Exxon have been really focused on the Namib Basin immediately to the north of us, and Morel and Proms have been very quiet and haven't done much recently. So we've been kind of on our own in terms of getting a real understanding of the source rocks. We know the source rocks that we're looking for because we had oil shows in the North Kidro wells that were drilled on one of our blocks in the first place. And that was one of the reasons why we'd selected these blocks all the way back in 2005. So we know the source rocks that we're looking for, but to work out how extensive they may be with the maturity to produce oil is what the work that we were doing earlier this year was all about. Now that's completed, we're integrating the oil seep analysis that we've done with that work, and that's just about complete, and that's all very consistent. But the next step is to look at all of the most promising structures and stratigraphic traps that are on the main migration paths that we've identified for the source rock, to work out the leads that we really want to acquire 3D seismic over in order to select both the area for the 3D seismic acquisition and then ultimately a well. So this is some of the most sort of interesting parts of the work process, and it's still a fair bit of work to do on the stratigraphic traps in particular, because when we were first looking at this license over a decade ago, there were these very large anticlines which kind of dominated everyone's thinking, and nobody was looking very carefully at the stratigraphic traps. Now that we've seen that the stratigraphic traps have been extremely successful in the Orange Basin, and it's also clear to us that they exist in the Walvis and will be the first thing that oil encounters on the migration paths, even if it eventually reaches the anticlines, we really need to analyze those in the same kind of depth. And so it's going to take quite a few more months to do that phase of work, but we've made a start on it, and we're very excited about it.
Okay, so before I let you go, a lot going on in Cameroon, in Namibia. As we approach the end of 2023, just mark our card. What should we be looking out for? What are the next 2 or 3 stories we should be looking for to come out of Tower?
First of all, the rig contract, I hope. Then, when we've done the rig contract, we'll work on the documentation of the license extension. The process of farming out, and I should stress that we're not going to do a conventional farm out at this stage because that's too time consuming. We'll structure investments in the operating subsidiary, but with an option to convert them into a farm out in due course. But I'm using farm out as a sort of shorthand. But I think that our thinking at the moment is to do more than one farm out, because I'm finding that it's much easier for the people we're speaking with to do smaller amounts of money than to try to do one deal that provides everything, because everyone's been careful with cash at the moment. So I expect there'll probably be a couple of announcements on that. One is much closer to fruition, and then hopefully we'll get the other one sorted out all in time, I hope, for Christmas. And then we should be drilling, I hope, in the first half of next year. In the first half of next year, of course, we'll get a good amount of notice of when the rig will actually be available, and then we'll keep everyone informed as the services are called off and we finalize the schedule. And I hope it'll be a really exciting first half of the year as well.
Fingers crossed. Thanks for joining us today, Jeremy. Please come back and keep us updated. That was Jeremy Asher, Chairman and Chief Executive of Tower Resources, updating on the interim results, but I suppose more importantly, on the progress the company has been making in Cameroon and in Namibia. That's it for this edition of Blythe Business News. Thanks for watching. soon.